All right, welcome. This is going to be just a quick demo on a simple tool that I put together to help you practice some syntax, some commands, looking at tools and things like that. So that's what we're looking at today. So you're going to need to go to the link that should be in your course welcome, or this will also be out in WG Connect. So you found this demo video, and you're going to want to go out to the actual website to access this. This is just hosted in a basic GitHub page. There's no login required or anything like that. So, nothing fancy, but it should work quite well. All right, so let's take a look at it. So what this is just a practice tool for using syntax, for writing commands, for doing tool recognition, different things that you can do in this tool. Now, we'll talk about some of these drop downs. So first we have categories, and this is split up into the various domains. So domain one, two, three, four, and five. And then there's a separate section specific to scripting. Now you can choose any of these, and if you choose a domain, then the tools will align to that specific domain. Now, there aren't any actual tools in domain one, so most of the questions in domain one are just going to be about the domain one. But if I actually go to domain two, you'll see that I have all kinds of tools in here from curl to dig to hunter.io, etc. So lots of tools available. Now, you don't have to select a domain. You can actually just go to the tool and select a specific tool. Like maybe as you were studying, you didn't see a lot on Durbuster and you want to learn a little bit more about that. You can select that tool and work through Durbuster. So you have the option to do by domain or by tool. Now, inside the mode, we're actually selecting the type of thing we want to do, and there are four modes available. Build means to build out a command in that tool, the actual syntax and flags you would use to run that tool. Fix means I'm going to give you a command that you need to fix some aspect of it isn't right. This is similar to how the exam will often show questions and say the penetration tester ran this command, didn't quite get the information they were looking for. What would they change? So that's kind of what that is built to do. Identify is to help you just learn the tools, right? So this is probably the most basic place to start. If you're just getting started in your studies and you want to try this tool out and you're not yet ready for building and fixing actual commands, then identifying the tool might be a really awesome place to just kind of get comfortable. And then interpret and explain is sort of like essay questions, where you get the ability to kind of explain a concept in some simple words and get graded on your understanding of that particular concept. And so if I select interpret and explain, you can see here's one for remediation from domain one. Provide two examples of technical controls and explain how each reduces exploitation risk. The two that are in there, they're looking for anything from patch management, system hardening, segmentation, encryption, MFA, wireless firewall rules, parameterized queries, etc. So you have a lot of things that you can include. You're just trying to name two technical controls, and we're just kind of testing the ability for you to recognize some of the technical controls. So that is a lot of the interpret explain are just easy questions to kind of say, hey, here's scapy. Here's what are we trying to do here? What traffic is being tried to capture? Why would this filter be useful in Scapy? And then it's kind of looking, this does, five packets matches to a specific filter, BPF, reduces the load, right? Using how many packet filters come back so that we can process them a little faster, that kind of thing. So interpret and identify really good if you're just getting started in learning the pen test materials. If you are wanting to get a little more hands-on with building specific commands, here's a build a PowerShell command to import PowerSploit from a local folder. And it's going to ask you to actually type out that entire command if we look at what they're looking for. So they're looking for import module and then the PowerSploit folder. But it's helpful to like, okay, what is that PowerShell command? Let me think about that. They gave me the folder, but I still need to come up with that import module on my own. You can get hints on these. So like maybe I don't know really what to do here. I can click the hint and it'll say, hey, start with import module. So I can be like, oh, okay, cool. I'm going to start with import module. It gave me that. And then I know I need to run it from this folder because it gave me that too. I'm going to try that and then I'm going to submit it. And it's like, oh, yeah, you did good. You got the whole thing. Okay. So you can use some of the hints. They'll kind of walk you. So also include PowerSploit. Checklist must include import module and PowerSploit. So it's really hand holding you to try and get you to get the right things in there. Now, I will point out I am on strictness normal, which is what I recommend that you use as well. So, strictness normal gives me some flexibility that I don't have to get the command perfect. I have to get the components for the command, but it doesn't have to be perfect. If you really are at the level where you're like, no, I really want to test myself, I'm ready, and you're actually going to take the exam like this weekend or something, you might want to move to strict, which is going to force you to ensure that your commands are in the right order, have all the components required. It's very strict, and it can be frustrating if you're learning. This is not the option I would pick. So, as you can see, I've recommended normal. I recommend that you stay on normal. It just gives you a little more flexibility, makes that a little bit easier. This tool, while you have it open, it is using a basic cookie to just keep track of how many you've answered, whether you're not correct, and then any kind of streaks that you may have had. Once you, because there's no login, right? Once you leave this tool and you exit, it may work. I may keep that cookie for a couple days and it may continue to track your progress, but I don't guarantee it. Like once you close your browser down and you restart your computer or whatever, you're probably going to lose this. And that was just a design choice that I had to make because I didn't want to make this complicated or have you have to log in or things like that. The other thing you can do that I'll point out is I could also choose either random or weak tools. So if I'm just starting out, random is fine. It's just going to give you a series of questions. You can pick them from domains or specific tools, whatever you want. But maybe after you've studied a while, you've used the tool a little bit, maybe you want to be like, you know what? I want to see the ones that I'm missing consistently. I want to see the ones that I need more help with, or want to see content I haven't seen yet. Then choosing in the study mode weak tools will give you content either you haven't seen or things that you've been consistently getting wrong. So it kind of lets you hone in on the areas that you really need a little more practice. Now, my recommendation as you get started on this tool that you do pick a category just to kind of limit the amount of content you're exposed to and you don't feel quite so overwhelmed. But certainly you can do anything you like. You can certainly just pick a tool and like, I want to work through all the questions in Bloodhound. Each tool has about between 6 and 8 questions for each tool. So there's not a ton of questions for a particular tool, but there should be enough to give you some hands-on practice with that. And of course, you can use those hints to kind of get ideas on what you might want to start with or how to write a particular command. And you can just reveal the example. Now, I hesitate. Don't just click this. It might help you if you're really stuck to understand what we're asking for, but it's going to give you the full and complete answer that you should be able to copy and paste in and get credit for the question, which of course isn't really going to help you a whole lot. So be cautious with that, right? That reveal example. Use the hints first. Try to do maybe some external research to figure out how to use Sharp walk through the hints to maybe help you, on the things that you need to include. And then hopefully you can get to where you're able to type out these commands and execute these tools without the prompts and without that assistance. Now, this tool is designed, it's fairly simplistic. I'm always looking for feedback on it, by the way. So I'll talk about that in a second. But by all means, take advantage of it. There's a ton of scripting. There are more scripting questions in here than there are some of the tool questions. I want to say there's about 30 scripting questions for each type of scripting. This one's Ruby, which rarely comes up on the exam, but every once in a while there's a question or two there. But your main ones are going to be Bash, PowerShell, and Python, and you can just do the Bash questions. And I want to say there might be somewhere between 25 and 30 Bash specific questions on how to, write a Bash command or how to set up something specific, things like that. So this one is building parallel recommands, running a DNS lookup for domains.txt in 20 concurrent workers using Zargs, and then outputting that for each IP so I can get some hints again, right? Start with Zarg, stack P20. That's my concurrent workers. How many am I doing? I might need to use dig in there and the domain IP and the short. Here's a little checklist to kind of guide you as what we're looking for. And then here's what that full command would actually look like. So this is great practice. This is a while loop, by the way. Great practice on how to build this so that you understand one, how to put it together. And then you understand on the exam, if you're asked this type of question, what's wrong with this command or how would I build this? You can do so. Now, I focused mostly on build a command. Let me show you a couple of fix commands because these are really good places to start. If you're not ready yet to write out the whole thing and you're like, I don't even know what any of that gobbledygook means, then fix a command might be a little bit better because here we have fix a command so that it lists system cron directories correctly. It's listing the wrong path, so it's telling you what's wrong. And then it's got an LSLA and then etc cron and then an asterisk on there. I can do a hint to say, okay, Etsy cron. Okay, we're looking at that. Cron tab. Oh, huh. Maybe I've got a little information there. I can reveal that example and I can see that I'm actually looking for that full command would be to list it, to list out the files in that directory. I'm looking at these and then I want to look at the Etsy cron tab directory. And so you're fixing a portion of the command that gives you part of it and guides you a little bit better. If I look at another one, fix the fix the reverse DNS lookup so it uses the correct mode and outputs only the PTR pointer result. And then it gives you part of the command. So there's a dig command, there's my DNS, there's my pointer, and then plus short. Now something is wrong here. I can use hint to kind of get an idea. Well, I know I got to start with dig. I mean, duh. Okay, so yep, start with dig. And then, oh gosh, I need that plus short and I need a tac ax. Where would that tac ax go? Well, that tac ax is actually, that command would end up being dig and then tac ax or plus short and then TACX and then my DNS server. So in this one, they gave you almost that full command and they're asking you to identify that that TACX is missing. And so build these fix the commands are going to give you part of it and kind of guide you through a little bit more. Build is more for when you're ready to test and you think you've got all this stuff down. This is definitely going to test your skills. Identifying a tool is going to kind of focus on, well, what tools are we talking about? Again, there's still hints. So we've got curl in here and we are actually looking at the percent flag in curl to get write out token prints to final effective URL. So we're kind of looking at what portion of this are we talking about? What are we talking about in terms of those commands? Which dig command correctly performs a reverse DNS lookup and prints only the pointer name. I think we just had something similar to that, right? And we did that plus short. So that's what they're looking for there. And they're looking for you to identify those portions of commands. So, and then your last one is kind of essay questions, interpret and explain. Why are these high value artifacts, right? And then your hints in your essay questions are not going to give you tips and tricks. They're really just going to give you, hey, you should be able to do this in like 120 characters or so. Include what it does, why it matters, and so you're being asked an open-ended question, and you have a little flexibility into what your response is to this question. So just type in whatever you're thinking this might be, and if we're looking at some of the keywords that we're looking for might be common persistence locations, unauthorized command execution, scheduled tasks, or SSH access. So if you had any of that in here, chances are you would get this question. Now, if I only include persistence, let's say I just remembered persistence when I read this and I clicked it, I've got 18%. So that's going to lead you to think, okay, I've got a portion of this, but they're looking for a little bit more from me. And so then I can think, okay, what else can I add to this? How else can I get this question? All right. Now I built this, pretty quickly, kind of threw it together. I know that it's not perfect. If you come across errors, there is a section here. Now I will preface this by saying you must have a GitHub account to do ratings. Okay. So you would need to create a free GitHub account to be able to rate things. What I'm asking you to do with this is I don't really care that you think it's useful or not useful. That's not really what I'm getting at. But if you're at one of these questions and you're typing in things and it's not giving you credit or it's not working, and then you reveal example and you like copy and paste this whole thing and you're like, okay, this is what it says the answer is, and I'm going to paste it in there. And I still don't get a correct answer. In this case, I did, but let's say I don't. That's something I need to know. There's a problem with that particular question, and you can select it. Doesn't matter. You can select, hey, this question sucks. Wasn't useful at all. It doesn't work. Here's why. You can put comments in there. Yeah, the question was good, but I had issues with it due to these reasons. Hey, this was actually extremely useful. I really like this question. I love those two. And no action required. Great. Okay. But this is a really easy way for you to submit an issue. And an issue in GitHub just goes into a folder that I can review. I will review issues on Thursdays and clear them all out and fix them. And all we're doing there is just having some opportunity for you to provide feedback. Is the tool helpful? And are there things working, appropriately? And then gives me an idea to go in and fix things as you use it, right? Because there's definitely, there's probably some areas maybe I missed a colon or a comma or something in the code, or I built something that isn't quite right, or maybe I'm asking you to list the wrong things and it's not very clear. So I'm always open to that feedback. And in general, that's it. Now, let's say you went through, you did some scripting stuff. It showed that you answered some 75% accurate. The last thing you can do is you can just reset anytime you like and start over with any particular tool or section that you might want to do. Anything that you would like, so you can reset anytime you like, and start over. So if you're like, hey, I got 75% of the questions right in Bash, I want to do them all again. I want to see every single one of the build ones. I'm going to work through all of them, and I'm hoping to see that accuracy go up so that I know that I'm starting to understand Bash. Cool, you can totally do that. Now, where does this tool fit in? This tool fits in combination with your labs. So as you're working through your labs and you learn about a new tool and you're like, okay, I learned about this new tool today. Let me go see, is it out here in this practice thing? And I learned about aircrack and G today. I'm going to go click on that tool and I'm going to build a few commands relevant to aircrack and G. I'm going to fix some commands relevant to aircrack and G. I'm going to identify what aircrack and G is primarily used for. And I'm going to even do some, questions. So this helps you cement it. Also, you may have tools that aren't covered in your materials, whatever tool you've used, Master Perform or Udemy or whatever. Maybe they didn't cover stuff. Maybe there's a tool you read about briefly, but they didn't go in great depth and you just want more. This is a really good place to come and just get more. Now, I've done my best to add as many of the tools that I could find that were listed in the CompTIA Pentest Plus objectives. And then also there's content in domains 1 and 2 that aren't really tools, but are more specific to the concepts in domains 1 and 2. So I'm in domain 5 now, and you can see there's exfiltration in here, persistence in here, pivoting in here. These are not tools, right? But these are concepts, cleanup. These are concepts in domain 5 that you still want to know a little bit about so that you are prepared for that portion. Same thing, I already showed you. Domain 1 does not have any tools. Instead, it has categories that are relevant to domain 1. What is collaboration? What are some tool controls for delivering a final report? Engagement. What is the pre-engagement checklist? What are 2 items that help reduce legal risk for the tester? These I have aligned the best I can. There are none of methodology, so I guess I got to fix that. But these are questions I've done the best I can to kind of align them to what is on the exam and kind of weigh this exam tests particular questions. So definitely take a look of domain 1 and 5 for things that aren't really tool specific. There's some additional stuff in there as well. And then the scripting section. Students are always asking me, hey, how do I get more practice with scripting? Well, here you go. And there's not very many Ruby in here because you may not even see Ruby on the exam. But since Exploit DB is built on top of Ruby, Pentest, the CompTIA sometimes like to ask a Ruby question. They might throw one in on you. So I put a couple in here just so you could practice Ruby a little bit. But really, your bread and butter are going to be Bash, PowerShell, and Python. And you can practice writing out some scripts or fixing some scripts or identifying some parts of Python or different modules within Python or Bash, etc. Just kind of check that stuff out to kind of see what you have available and go through these tools. How I recommend using this, I mentioned pairing it with the labs as you do the tools. 10 or 15-minute sessions at a time. Okay. This is not something where you're going to burn through really fast and try to memorize a bunch of stuff. I mean, you certainly can, but if you just have 10 minutes, that is enough time to work through some syntax drills. Try to build in 10 minutes every day so you stay consistent, even if you're not able to do longer study sessions, and just enjoy the tool. Let me know if it sucks. Okay. Let me know. Give me feedback. Definitely use the feedback features down here. And if you haven't yet set up a GitHub account, I always tell students, set up your GitHub, build your GitHub, start tracking your projects, start building your portfolios, start putting things together for recruiters and hiring managers to look at and just to share things out with the general cybersecurity community. So if you haven't done that, well, you have to create one in order to create a rating. And I need your rating to make the tool better for future students. So it's a win-win for everybody, right? And the account is absolutely for free. Okay. If you have any questions on this, I didn't say my name is Mick Merritt. If you don't recognize my voice, apologize. My name is Mick Merritt. I am one of your instructors for D332 as well as D484, supporting bachelor's and master students. If you have questions about this tool or anything related to Pentest at all, don't hesitate to reach out to me, send me an email, send me a text, grab a one-on-one with me, whatever it takes to get you through this exam. I am here to help. Thanks for spending time with me and looking at this demo. I hope you have a lot of fun with it, and I'll see you in the next video.